All right. Hmm. Okay. Hello. Is it working? I can't really hear anything. I don't know why I have it on. Not an advanced streamer yet. Let's see. Just gonna check some settings here. Wait, those settings changed. 2 people watching. Okay. How's it sound? Can you hear me okay? Daytona Falls says, due to Find Your Town yesterday, watched your rewrite for episode 7. Awesome. Hey, thanks, Daytona Falls. I appreciate that. Let me know, does everything sound okay? It's my first ever live stream. I don't have any software or anything, so not sure if everything is sounding okay. I'm about to pull it up on my phone, see what it sounds like. Sounds fine? Great. Awesome. All right. First ever live stream. Super excited to do this. I think, cool. It works. I pulled it up on my phone. Sounds okay. Sweet. So, first ever live stream for Fouch Facts. Pretty excited about this. So today, going to talk about just a few things. Number one is, first topic of discussion, I'm going to rank the Star Wars films. And this is just my own personal ranking. It's my objective opinions. It's like my favorite list, my top favorite Star Wars movie. So it's very different from my list of what Star Wars films I think are the best. So, yeah, it's my personal favorite list, my personal favorite Star Wars movies. I have a separate list for which Star Wars films I think are the best films, and it differs a little bit from my personal favorite. But this list is my personal favorite, my objective opinions about the Star Wars saga. All 9 Skywalker films, plus the 2 spinoffs, Rogue One and Solo, is going to be included in this. Got a message here. My phone. Sorry, this is going to be not going to attack you for your opinion, bro. Sweet. Awesome. I know it's like cancel culture society today, so got to be careful what you say. You don't want to say the wrong thing and offend somebody. Heaven forbid that, which everybody's entitled to their opinion. You know, my opinions are going to be different than your opinions. Some of them might be the same, similar, a little different. They might be completely polar opposites, but that's like part of the beauty of life is we as people can come together despite our differences. And I think that's a lesson that we need to learn in society today. And just because we disagree with each other doesn't make us mortal enemies. But, you know, it is what it is. So we have to go through these struggles to advance in society, advance in our culture. But at the end of the day, we're all the same. You know, but I don't want to get too much into politics or anything like that. This is just a channel for nerd stuff, like I said. So since the sequel trilogy happened, I view Attack of the Clones as a sleeper masterpiece. That you know what? That's a hot take, Daytona Falls, but that might be a good take. I might have to bring that up when I do these rankings. 1 second here. Let me get some things set up. Okay, so ranking the Star Wars films, and again, these are my personal favorites. I'm going to start at the bottom of the list and work my way up to the top, just to make it more suspenseful. I don't know why I'm starting at the bottom. Kind of like Drake, I guess, started from the bottom. Now we're here. Really lame pun, but hey, I'm full of lame puns. I'm a dad, so I got dad jokes flying out the wazoo. So it's probably this video is probably going to sound really stupid when I go back and watch it, but hey, you know what? It's me. This is raw, off the cuff, genuine conversation. And you don't like it? How you doing? Keep it moving. But for those of you who do like it, thank you so much, especially people like Daytona Falls. Always start at street level. Haha, that's exactly right, man. Daytona Falls is a real one. But so we're going to get started. Frog in my throat. My ranking of the Star Wars films, starting with my least favorite film in the Star Wars franchise. Definitely The Last Jedi. No hesitation, no second thoughts. Episode 8, in my opinion, is my personal most hated film. But also, I believe Episode 8 is the worst Star Wars film. Now, before I get into why I don't like The Last Jedi, because I could go on and on, I will say what I do like about the movie, because there are some good moments in the movie. There are some redeeming qualities about it, but overall, it just doesn't work for me. One thing that I like about The Last Jedi is the cinematography of it. I'm a sucker for beautiful-looking shots, and The Last Jedi has a lot of beautiful-looking shots. Some of the landscape shots, especially for Octo, at the beginning of the film and sort of in the middle of the movie, awesome. Seeing the water and the Skellig Michael Island, the layout of everything, how Ryan and the film crew positioned the island and the shots, it's beautiful. Some of the panning shots while Rey's just walking on the island, where it's the large overhead view and the camera's going over the island, and you see Rey following Luke. Those are some great shots. It's like a National Geographic nature documentary. Awesome shots. The Battle of Crate, when you have all the walkers and the camera's like panned out and you see the cliffside and the small rubble base over here and the big giant ATM-6 walkers right here in the salt flat landscape. It's a great shot. The visuals of The Last Jedi are really cool too, like how on Crate, for example, when the speeders fly over it and people walk on it, the red dust kicks up. It's the soil underneath the land of the salt flats. I think that's cool. It's a cool visual element of the film, and it works for me in terms of visual aesthetics. I think that's cool. I think the music, obviously John Williams' score, is amazing. I have not ever listened to a John Williams soundtrack that I don't like. I think the music of The Last Jedi, in my opinion, I like John Williams' soundtrack for The Last Jedi more than I liked his soundtrack for The Force Awakens. To me, the soundtrack for The Last Jedi sounded more complete, almost as if John had, it was all CGI but fake. It's possibly true, but it still looked cool. Going back to the soundtracks, I think John Williams' soundtrack for Force Awakens kind of sounded a little bit rushed. He had some cool themes. Rey's theme was definitely great. The end credits medley was awesome. Did you see the Ortega cut? I've not seen the Ortega cut altogether. I've seen bits and pieces of it, and it looks pretty good from what I've seen. But John Williams' score for The Last Jedi I thought was really good. It was really gripping, really emotional, and really tense, because this movie is supposed to be a tense movie. The main plot and storyline, at least from the Resistance side of things, is supposed to be this on the edge of the seat thriller. They're trying to run away from the First Order, but they can't because they're low on hyperspace fuel. So when you dig into the plot, it breaks apart because it's not very strong. But it's supposed to be suspenseful. It's supposed to be thrilling. And John Williams' score really reflects that. And then when you're on the island of Octo with Luke and Rey, it's peaceful, laid back, but it's also got a tone of adventure to it as Luke tries to train Rey. And I think that really works well. And then obviously during the battle scenes, it's epic fanfares and, beautiful, beautiful music that just really fits the action atmosphere of the scenes. John Williams can't score bad. He will never write bad music, in my opinion. I've listened to countless John Williams soundtracks, and I've not heard a bad one. And that's just a testament to his creativity and his mastery of music. He is the maestro. He is the man, John Williams. The guy has been nominated for, I think, over 45 or 50 Academy Awards, and he's won at least 5 of them. And that says a lot. I mean, think about that. Over 50 nominations. I think it might be more than 50. I know it's for sure over 45. But anyway, so the soundtrack was great. The visuals was great. The cinematography was great of The Last Jedi. And that's about it. When you look at the story of The Last Jedi, it kind of sucks. Typically in Star Wars films, at least in George's original 6 films, you had a time gap between the other movies. This movie picks up right at where The Force Awakens ends, which from a narrating, storytelling standpoint, I get that. But I feel like the movie would have done better if we would have had maybe at least a year's time gap in between Episode 8 and Episode 7. Give some time to progress the main characters and change them, have them go through some form of evolution. Or at least, if you're going to start the movie off like they did, have a time jump in the movie. So if I would have directed The Last Jedi, if I would have written it, I would have started the movie off, obviously, with Rey handing Luke the saber. Rey handing Luke the Skywalker saber, like she did. And I would have written it differently, but Luke taking the saber, not chucking it over his shoulder. And then I would have time jumped, which I know we haven't ever seen a time jump in a Star Wars movie, so some people might not like that. But when J.J. Abrams left The Force Awakens off on that literal cliffhanger, didn't really set Rian Johnson up for a lot of success. And when he started off where the Episode 8 story takes place. So while the cliffhanger was cool to see because we finally get to see Luke, even if it's all for 5 seconds and then the movie's over, it really limits Ryan as to where he can pick up with the story. So he didn't have a whole lot of options, but I still think if you pick up with Luke taking the saber from Rey and then do a time jump, it would have worked better, but we got what we got. And speaking of handing the lightsaber off, probably my most hated moment of the film. Luke is holding his father's lightsaber. Literally the only thing, aside from his sister, that he has that would make him remember who his father was. The good Anakin Skywalker, not the evil Darth Vader. He's holding the last thing, remnants of Anakin Skywalker, in his hand, and he throws it over his shoulder. I'm sorry, what? And then the direction that Luke has, the story plot that Luke's character has is just garbage. We go at the end of Return of the Jedi. Luke is an accomplished Jedi Knight who was well on his way to becoming a Jedi Master, just confronted his father, Darth Vader, redeemed him back to Anakin Skywalker. Luke confronted the Emperor. Again, Luke technically in Return of the Jedi is still a Padawan. He hasn't gone through his trials yet. He faced Vader and epically lost. He got his hand cut off. He hasn't had anything to kind of progress him into knighthood. And then in Return of the Jedi, he faces Vader again. And not only does he face Vader, he faces the Emperor himself in person, takes the Force lightning and everything, and beats them both. Obviously, Vader threw the Emperor over the shaft, but Luke was the catalyst to inspire Anakin's redemption, to cast off the shadow of Darth Vader and become a Jedi again, and to bring balance back to the Force. So that was Luke's big trial. So at the end of Return of the Jedi, I view Luke as having just become a Jedi Knight. So naturally, in the next installment of films, we should see Luke be a Jedi Master. What does Rian Johnson do? He makes Luke a grumpy old hermit who hates everybody and wants nothing to do with the Jedi, wants to burn the tree down, and the books along with it. It doesn't work, And the explanation that Ryan gives, haters always call Luke whiny. I'm like, what, Dad? Did you watch the whole thing? Hero's Turn? Exactly. Luke is kind of whiny in A New Hope. I mean, I was going to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. That's whiny. But we see him progress in the original trilogy from this whiny farm boy to this somewhat headstrong hero in Empire Strikes Back who gets a little overconfident in over his head, gets incredibly humbled, loses his hand to his father, who's his arch nemesis, and then overcomes that humiliation to not only redeem his father, but to help defeat the Empire, supposedly, once and for all. But we find out, the Empire grew in the First Order and everything. And so that's that. So I didn't like Luke's direction in The Last Jedi at all. And really, I didn't like a whole lot of other characters' directions in The Last Jedi either. That's really my biggest gripe with The Last Jedi. Is from a storytelling standpoint, it does not make sense when you look at the individual characters and when you just look at the overall plot of the movie. Like I said, the main plot of the movie is the Resistance is trying to escape from the First Order, and they can't because they're running low on hyperspace fuel. This is dumb. And then you throw in the whole side plot of the mutiny with Poe and Vice Admiral Holdo, who is the most stupid character. I think she's more stupid than Jar Jar. Keeping the whole mission a secret of trying to get to Crate and sneak off in these smaller ships that the First Order isn't tracking. Doesn't work. It's dumb. Why would she not tell Poe what the plan is so she doesn't cause a situation like we see play out in the movie? It's just lazy writing, and it sucks. That's why The Last Jedi is last, in my opinion. Storytelling, it just ruins all the characters that we know and love. It doesn't make sense. It completely takes everything J.J. Abrams set up in Episode 8, goes 180 degrees in the opposite direction. It's awful. Number 10. So number 11, Last Jedi. Number 10, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, I might catch some flack for this and some hate because I've got 2 sequel trilogy movies at the bottom of the list. Overall, I was not a fan of the sequel trilogy movies because there was no plan for the sequel trilogy. There was no direction of how to get from point A to B to C. And you could tell that because really none of the movies make sense when you watch them together. And 1 second, I got my daughter here really quick. I gotta take care of something.
Papa told me that go tell you that you need your. Okay.
So I'm back. What's it? All right. Sorry about that. So we're good. Number 11 was The Last Jedi. Number 10 is Rise of Skywalker. Now, what I was saying, the sequels, they just don't make sense from a storytelling standpoint when you connect them to the other 6 Star Wars films. I thought J.J. Abrams did a really good job with Force Awakens setting up a potential story. Was Force Awakens perfect? Absolutely not. It had its flaws, and I'll get into that later. But it was okay. It at least gave us a starting point, and I thought it gave the other movies, 8 and 9, a lot of potential to live up to, and we could have gotten a really great sequel trilogy, but we didn't. And The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker are the biggest examples of why the sequel trilogy fails, is because they don't connect to the other movies. They completely, well, at least The Last Jedi does this more than Rise of Skywalker, but you completely ignore what came before. Last Jedi completely ignores really the lore and the spirit of Star Wars of the original 6 films, and The Rise of Skywalker completely ignores what The Last Jedi did. So that's why The Rise of Skywalker, honestly, to me, is not number 11, because it does retcon The Last Jedi, and I will appreciate it always for that. But in retconning The Last Jedi, J.J. Abrams tries to tell his version of Episode 8 with the first half of Rise of Skywalker, and then in the last half of Rise of Skywalker is his vision for Episode 9. Think about it like that. In doing that, you just create a bigger mess, arguably, than what The Last Jedi was in itself, because not only are you retconning what came before, you're trying to set up a conclusion that you can't properly explain and tell in a complete story, because you're just jumbling things together. And on top of that, on top of a discombobulated mess of confusion, you throw in fan service to try and get the original Star Wars fans back that you alienated with The Last Jedi. And all this combined makes a hot pile of garbage titled The Rise of Skywalker. The Emperor coming back was not the plan. It was never the plan. I don't care what Kathleen Kennedy says or J.J. Abrams says, anybody. There's literally a video interview of Daisy Ridley. I think she's doing it with the guy who voiced Olaf, Josh Gad. And she said, Josh Gad asked Daisy Ridley, was Palpatine being your grandpa always a plan? And Daisy Ridley says no. Literally didn't know that until like a couple days before shooting some of the scenes for that. J.J. Abrams comes up to her on set and says, yeah, Palpatine's granddad. And that's how that went. It was literally just fan service to try and get people to come back and watch this film, because Disney realized that they screwed up with Episode 8 and they screwed up with The Last Jedi. But it was poorly executed. Palpatine coming back as the main villain could have been really awesome to see if it was properly, set up and explained throughout the previous sequel trilogy movies. But it's just shoehorned in there at the last moment for fan service, and it completely falls apart. So here we go. Hey, what's up, Chris? All right, really quick, now pause this ranking really quick. I got my friend in here, Chris. He longtime friend, went to high school with him, went to church with him back in the day. He's got his own podcast called Here We Go that he does on his Facebook page, his own personal Facebook. So look him up on Facebook, Chris Goad, and watch his videos. Awesome content. Great, funny guy. But hope you're doing well, Chris. So ranking the Star Wars films: 11, The Last Jedi; 10, The Rise of Skywalker. Number 9. This is tough because from here on out, I it's really nitpicky with me, because again, this is my own personal favorite list, my own subjective list for how I view these movies. And I have a separate list, like I said earlier, that I rank what I actually think the best Star Wars films are. But again, this is my personal list. So 11, Last Jedi; 10, Rise of Skywalker. Number 9, I'm going to have to say The Phantom Menace. Now, The Phantom Menace is number 9 because the story is there. A setup for the story is there. So we can be introduced to how Star Wars begins, right? It's Episode 1. Every, legend has a beginning, I think was one of the taglines they used in the original trailers. And the premise of this plot, like when you're reading the Wikipedia plot outline of this film, it doesn't sound like a bad movie. But when you watch it, you're disappointed because the plot was poorly executed. You can have, a lot of people gripe on the prequels, or what Chris said, creating channel just because we're going live, hoping to get some content in here soon. Thanks for the shout out. Gonna rewind and watch from the beginning. Awesome, Chris. Thanks for that, buddy. You rock. Go check out Chris's channel when he uploads content. It's gonna be great. In the words of the former number 45, it's gonna be great. I know it. The generals know it. Everybody knows it. It's gonna be great. That was my poor impression of Donald Trump, which is probably going to get me canceled, but oh well. back to Star Wars. So a lot of people gripe on the prequels because it has too much politics in it, and I agree to an extent. But I want to counter with this: you can have good political drama in a movie or television show, and it makes the show interesting. Case in point, Game of Thrones, literally the most successful television show of all time. That is a biased opinion, but it's also a fact. Go look at its Emmy history. It's got the most nominations and I think the most wins of any television show. At least in its time, it did. Um, but that is just an example of how you can have good political drama in a movie or television show, and it works. It makes it interesting. That's aside from phenomenal acting and writing for at least the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. The latter seasons kind of fall off, but anyway, the political drama was so well written, so well acted and directed that it was the backbone of the show. And in addition to that political drama, you had great action scenes, you had good acting, you had good music, good cinematography, all that stuff that makes a complete experience for a movie or television show. But the backbone was a political drama. You can have good political drama when I say political drama, I don't mean like, current events, political drama. I mean, if you want to have people in a movie universe fighting about politics, fighting for power, trying to become king or queen or things like that, corruption in a government, you can have those story elements in a movie or TV show. And it can be done really well. Case in point, like I said, Game of Thrones. The prequels fall flat because the political drama of it was poorly executed. Trade federations, blockades, embargoes, delays in the Senate because of corruption and all this stuff. It can be exciting to watch, but it got really boring in the prequels, and that's why The Phantom Menace is number 9, because the bulk of this movie is boring political drama. It could have been great, but it wasn't. And you can say it was because of bad writing, you can say it was because of bad directing, possibly bad acting, although I think Ian McDiarmid, who plays Palpatine, is always great in anything that he does. You had to see Palpatine's genius plan taking shape. Yes, you do have to see Palpatine's plan taking shape. I think it could have been executed a little better, could have been explained a little bit more, the writing could have been a little better, overall acting from the other cast could have been better, but it falls short, in my opinion. Again, this is my opinion. Palpatine is a very interesting character and one of the most complex villains because he's such a master manipulator, puppet master from behind the scenes, orchestrating events. And this is something that was severely lacking in the prequels because you get hints of it here and there, but it's never really brought to light until Revenge of the Sith, which is why Revenge of the Sith is the best prequel movie. In my opinion, it's the best prequel movie because it really dives into, what's going on behind the scenes. Yes, we have all this political drama and this war stuff, but why is it important? Revenge of the Sith gets into that, and that's why it's good. It's good political drama. Revenge of the Sith is good political drama. Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, bad political drama. But there are a lot of good things in the Phantom Menace. Like I said, the reason why Phantom Menace is number 9, mainly because the political drama is boring and I don't care. I don't care about Naboo. I don't care about the Gungans. I don't care about Padme, Queen Amidala. And if George could have made me care about those things from a storytelling standpoint early on, I would have been interested and invested into the politics of the film. If they would have made me care about Naboo and the Gungans and Queen Amidala and the city of Thee being invaded, it made me say, hey, that's bad, the Trade Federation shouldn't be doing that, it would have made the movie a lot better. But I don't care about Naboo because, we're just introduced to it in the beginning of the film, and it's under a blockade by the Trade Federation, and it's a bad thing, but we as an audience don't really know it's a bad thing because we don't know anything about Naboo or its people or its native species, so we don't understand why it's a bad thing. Good things about The Phantom Menace. In my opinion, The Phantom Menace has, the second best John Williams soundtrack in any Star Wars movie. Duel of the Fates. in my opinion, it's aside from the main theme of Star Wars, it's the best John Williams song composed for a Star Wars film. Awesome. The choir, the brass, the strings, everything. Great film. One of the most iconic soundtracks in Star Wars history. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background. He's playing with his squeaky toys. But moving aside from the score, because John Williams is always a genius, the action. Action's great. We see the Jedi in their prime. We see them fighting the Sith. My boy, Darth Maul. Best part about Phantom Menace, aside from Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn, great acting on those two. Speaking of, action's great. Action's great. Soundtrack's great. And the visuals, again, are great. I was stationed in Germany when episode 1 came out, sure, also, but I would have still stood up and screamed about seeing E.T. Yeah, cool little Easter egg about Phantom Menace. E.T.'s in the Phantom Menace. He's in the Senate chamber scene. I forget which part it is, but if you pause the movie, you can see like the ET aliens in like the bottom corner of a shot. It's pretty cool. But yeah, the action's great. The prequels, the score's great. A lot of people don't like the CGI because it drags away from the more practical effects used in the original trilogy. I think it looks cool. I mean, for its time, 1999, the computer-generated technology is fantastic. Obviously, in 2021, it's going to look cheesy, and there's parts of it that are going to look obviously fake, but for its time, it was unparalleled. I mean, think about the battle at the end between the Gungans and the Droid Army. That was like one of the biggest battle scenes we've gotten in cinema, certainly in cinema and definitely on screen for television. Think about what this set up. You go from Phantom Menace's in-battle scene in 1999 to Lord of the Rings Helm Deep in 2002, the Battle of Pelennor Fields and Return of the King in 2003. And from there on, things progress. You get the 300 battle scenes, from the 300 movies that are pretty awesome and big, which eventually paves the way for television to integrate big battle scenes. Game of Thrones, and it eventually builds up and builds up and builds up until we get 2018 and 2019 with Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. If the Phantom Menace and the Star Wars prequel trilogy did not pioneer CGI in film, we wouldn't be as far advanced as we are in film and television today with the technology of what we can do. So it's one of the better aspects of the film. Still falls short for me. It falls flat because the political drama is boring. I don't care enough about the characters when I should. The only ones I care about are Obi-Wan and Anakin, which really that's all you need to care about. Qui-Gon's pretty cool too, can't lie. But again, the movie can't hang on just 3 characters alone. All right, so 11, Last Jedi, 10, Rise of Skywalker, 9, The Phantom Menace, number 8. I'm going to have to say it. I hate to say it because I really enjoyed this film as a kid, but I can't ignore that it suffers from the same mistakes of Phantom Menace and its Attack of the Clones for number 8. Now, I really love, I talked about Phantom Menace having a great story but poorly executed. Attack of the Clones has a phenomenal story that is incredibly poorly executed. Think about this. It's a murder mystery thriller. We have the bad guys are trying to assassinate a politician. This team of Jedi are sent to intervene and protect her. One has to investigate who is behind the attacks and uncovers this plot that there's been this secret army made for the Republic that was supposed to have been requisitioned by the Jedi, but the Jedi did not place this order. So who did it? Where did this come from? Mystery. Thriller. We're introduced to Jango Fett, the father of Boba Fett. We're introduced to Boba Fett, one of the most iconic Star Wars characters of all time. It has the potential for this story to be an awesome thriller. Prequels rhyme with the OG. Without anyone saying that George recycled ideas, it was perfection. True. I mean, the movies are supposed to rhyme. George Lucas says it's poetry. So Attack of the Clones is similar to Empire Strikes Back in the sense that it's kind of darker in tone. It kind of splits the heroes up. Obi-Wan and Anakin separate. Anakin goes off with Padme. They have this love story develop. And so, again, we're brought to probably the biggest gripe of Attack of the Clones is the acting. And yes, Attack of the Clones probably has some of the worst acting in all of Star Wars, especially the love and romance scenes between Anakin and Padme were poorly written, poorly acted, but at the same time, in my defense of the actors, what are you supposed to do with a script that says, I don't like sand? How are you supposed to romanticize that phrase, I don't like sand? You can't. And so that's really where Attack of the Clones struggles, is because it's poor writing. You have a great setup for a potentially great story, but again, it's poorly executed. And the acting's not the greatest, but I think the acting wasn't the greatest, not because of poor choices in casting, but because of poor writing and poor directing. Star Wars, people who have acted in Star Wars are infamous for saying that George Lucas is not the best director when it comes to giving motivation for scenes. Just watched Fanboys yesterday. Ryan was better with Star Wars far beyond the sequel trilogy. I've not seen Fanboys, but I need to. But yeah, Attack of the Clones, again, another possibly great story that just falls short. It fails to execute on what could make this story interesting and great. What I love about Attack of the Clones, the last 45 minutes of the film, the start of the Clone Wars, ever since I heard Luke and Obi-Wan talk about the Clone Wars and New Hope, I always envisioned in my mind, what would this look like? This would be so cool. The Jedi are in their prime, 10,000 Jedi Knights versus this evil force, the battle droids and everything. It sounds cool. I want to see that. And getting to see that play out is fantastic. I love the Clone Troopers. They're one of my favorite things about Star Wars. Speaking of Clone Troopers, just got this the other day. It's the Black Series Bad Batch. It's Hunter from the Bad Batch. I have a ton of Clone Trooper merch. I've got a Clone Trooper helmet that my friend 3D printed for me at work that I painted. Custom painted this myself. It's got Aurebesh on it. That's Star Wars writing. It says Brothers on the little head strip here. And on the back, that's Aurebesh. It's 99 in honor of 99. One of my favorite clones of all time. I loved to see the introduction of the Clone Troopers. It was cool. It was sweet. Getting to see the Jedi in their prime fighting was awesome. But again, I can't ignore the faults that Attack of the Clones has. And so that's why it's at number 8. So recapping really quick, 11, Last Jedi, 10, Rise of Skywalker, 9, Phantom Menace, 8, Attack of the Clones, 7, I have to go with Solo. Now, I really wanted to like Solo, and I did. I thought Solo was a fun film. That's why it's like in the middle of the list, because it's not fantastic, but it's not trash. It's a fun Star Wars movie. I didn't like how Han Solo got his name because the one guy says, you're by yourself. Han Solo. I thought that was kind of dumb and lazy. I was okay with Han's last name actually being Solo and not some cheesy, you're by yourself. You're Solo. That's your name, Solo. It's a cheesy nickname. It would have been cool if it was his actual last name, but it's just a cheesy nickname given to him by some recruiting officer. But other than that, Alden Ehrenreich was fantastic as young Han. I really loved his performance because we get to see a side of Han that we've never seen before. It's this youthful Han. A lot of people didn't like it because they said it wasn't like Harrison Ford's Han Solo. This movie is not supposed to be Harrison Ford's Han Solo. This is a movie that's supposed to start Han Solo on his journey into becoming the charming rogue we see in Episode 4. This movie and the sequels that were supposed to follow that will probably be turned into Disney Plus series at some point is supposed to show how the Alden Ehrenreich Han became the Harrison Ford Han. So it's not supposed to be a carbon copy of Harrison Ford, and I think Alden Ehrenreich did a great job. He had elements of Harrison's Han Solo in there. The whole, standoffish, I'm a loner. I think he captured that perfectly well. The whole, shooting first thing at the end with Beckett was great, And at the end of the movie where he steals Lando's car to win the game of Sabacc and win the Millennium Falcon, that's Han Solo, So we see at the end of the film, Alden's Han is starting to become more like Harrison's Han Solo. And it was great. again, Darth Maul shows up at the end. I loved that scene because if you didn't watch the Clone Wars and Rebels, you would have no idea that Darth Maul survived, but we get to see him in live action again. It was great. I wish we could get more solo movies. I'm hoping that Alden Ehrenreich's Han shows up in the Lando series that we'll be getting, I think, next year or 2023. We'll see what happens, but again, Solo, very fun film. Not terrible, but not perfect. It's just a fun, enjoyable Star Wars movie. So it falls at number 7. Number 6. This is where things start to get interesting because any movie from here outside of my top 3, you could change the order of. So we had Last Jedi at 11, we had Rise of Skywalker at 10, 9 Phantom Menace, 8 Attack of the Clones, 7 Solo. Number 6, I'm going to go with. This is tough. This is pretty tough. Number 6, I'm probably going to have to say Return of the Jedi. Controversial, super hot take. But again, remember what I just said. You can substitute 6, 5, and 4 and swap them in any order, and I'm okay with that. It's really hard. Again, it's nitpicky. It's really hard for me to finalize this order. But the reason I say Return of the Jedi is because it has a lot of good story elements in it. The Luke and Vader scenes are phenomenal. It adds so much depth to their characters. You know, the seeds of Vader's redemption are planted, and we get to see the human side of Vader rather than the villainous side of him, and it's just really great, really emotionally well acted scenes on the part of, David Prowse and James Earl Jones for Vader, and then Mark Hamill for Luke. We get to see, the romance develop between Han and Leia, which works out really well. We get to see the rebels backed into a corner, and it's this. Either now or never seeing top 6 are all number 1. Essentially, yeah. But, the severe underdog, we get to see the Rebel Alliance in full strength after only seeing bits and pieces of them in the previous 2 original trilogy movies. All that stuff really works well. The action is great. The cinematography is great. The acting is great. The writing is great. I don't like the Ewoks. I don't like the Ewoks. They just don't work for me. I have a hard time believing that even though the Empire, the stormtroopers can't hit the broadside of a barn with a blaster gun, I have a hard time believing they're going to be outsmarted and defeated in the field of battle by midget bears. It's just not going to happen. It's not practical to me. I think it would have been cooler if we could have gone to like the Wookiee homeworld, Kashyyyk, and see an army of Wookiees fighting against stormtroopers, because that would be more believable. I do think the Wookiees could beat the Empire. But we got Ewoks, and it is what it is. So, and again, like I said, the number 6, 5, and 4 on this list, you could swap them in any order that you see fit, and I'm okay with that. But 6 is Return of the Jedi for me. Number 5, I'm going to have to go with The Force Awakens, Latin Warrior. In my day, we had Ewoks. Kids nowadays have Jar Jar. That's essentially true. Actually, Lopez, this is my other friend, Lopez. We don't have Jar Jar today. We have Porgs. Porgs are from the sequel trilogy. My generation had Jar Jar. You guys had Ewoks. Ewoks were a metaphor about Malaysia or something, resisting against China. That's probably true. But I think he could have done better than midget bears. Jar Jar is part of the reason why Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are 9 and 8 on my list too. But yeah, I just have a hard time believing that the Ewoks are going to defeat the Empire. But everything outside of the Ewoks is fine. So that's number 6. Return of the Jedi is number 6. Number 5, I'm going to have to go with The Force Awakens. I can't remember if I think I said episode 7. Force Awakens is number 5 for me. Force Awakens is a very good movie. It sets up a sequel trilogy that could have been phenomenal. It could have been really great. And The fact that it wasn't is just, and not that the film wasn't, but the sequel trilogy fails to follow on the success of it is really disappointing, because we have um, the potential. Like I said, the potential is there. The Force Awakens was a good movie. It wasn't without its flaws. It had some really great scenes. When Han and Chewie step onto the Falcon at the very beginning of the movie, and Han looks at Chewie and says, "Chewie, we're home." Oh, be still my heart. Tears rolling down the face. It was good. And we had, the cliffhanger scene with Luke at the end, I think was really good. It was a payoff to the main plot of this movie of where is Luke. And even though we only get to see him for like 5 seconds, it was still cool to see Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker again. But it was poorly followed up upon in the sequel trilogy. So that's why The Force Awakens isn't higher on this list. But it still had some good moments. I think the cast is great. I think the writing, for the most part, is okay. The cinematography is great. The soundtrack is great again. Again, it's kind of like Force Awakens for me is kind of like Solo. It's a fun Star Wars movie. It's not the best. It's not the worst. All right, so we're going to recap here. 11, Last Jedi. 10, Rise of Skywalker. 9, Phantom Menace. 8, Attack of the Clones. 7, Solo. 6, Return of the Jedi. 5, The Force Awakens. Number 4. Number 4 is Episode 4, A New Hope. Again, probably a controversial hot take, but remember what I said. You can take 6, 5, and 4 and rearrange them in any order. Some people have A New Hope, Episode 4, in their top 3. For me, it's really close. But the biggest thing that keeps A New Hope out of the top 3 is I think it's just a tad bit too slow in terms of pace. Again, this is the movie that started it all. So it's the golden child, essentially, right? Without this, we don't have anything else. And so that's why it's towards the top. It's in the top 4. It's number 4, but it's in the top 4. It has some of the best moments in all of Star Wars. The scene where Luke is staring out over the twin sunset of Tatooine is great. It's George Lucas. That's George Lucas's favorite scene in any Star Wars movie because he relates that to himself and wondering, where am I going to go? What's my story? What's my purpose in life? And that's what Luke's wondering when he's looking at the twin suns. Great scene. The music behind it, the Force theme is so emotional. It really brings everything together. We're introduced to Darth Vader. That entrance where he first walks into the Tantive 4 is I'll never forget it. It's an iconic entrance. The Death Star, this weapon that can destroy a planet. Holy cow, that's awesome. Luke blowing up the Death Star. That's cool. Obi-Wan Kenobi, old Ben, the wise old Jedi Master. Alec Guinness, phenomenal in that movie. Harrison Ford was, like today's Channing Tatum or today's Ryan Reynolds, the heartthrob of 70s and 80s films, the guy with all the charisma, all the character, and all that stuff. Great. Carrie Fisher was like 18 or 19 when she made this movie, and the fact that she was able to go in there and hold her own with Harrison Ford and Alec Guinness really says something. And of course, Mark Hamill, fantastic as Luke Skywalker. Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin, legendary. All around, it's a great movie. Good plot. I can't really think of anything bad about this movie. And I don't have anything bad to say about The Force Awakens, about A New Hope. It's a great Star Wars movie. Now we get into the juicy part. Top 3 Star Wars movies. Number 3, Rogue One. Chris is probably not going to like, Chris Goad. There's 2 Chris's in the chat, but Chris Goad is not going to like this. I loved Rogue One. In my opinion, it's the best Disney Star Wars film that Disney produced. Why? Because I think it perfectly captures the spirit of the original trilogy, but gives us a new story. Well, it's kind of a new story, but it's kind of isn't, because we get to see the rebels steal the plans for the Death Star. And the way that they did that, I thought, was very creative. The way that Gareth Edwards told the story is very creative. Some people don't like Rogue One because they say they don't care about the characters. One second, I'm going to shut my door really quick. You can hear the dog. All right, back. A lot of people don't like Rogue One because you could care less for the characters, right? In this movie, and I'm going to rebuttal that with this. You're not supposed to care about the characters in this movie. This movie is literally just setting up the events of Episode 4. It's saying, this movie is telling the story of how the rebels stole the plans to the Death Star. It's not a story that you're supposed to be emotionally invested into its characters. And I think you should care about the characters to some extent in all films. And in my opinion, I do. Because we see this team come together, this ragtag group of rebels come together, and at the end of the movie, they all die. Spoilers, but if you haven't, it's been out for like 5 years. If you haven't seen it, that's on you. But they all die, and when I'm watching them die, it's not the most detrimental thing to me. It's not like watching Han Solo die. It's not like watching, Obi-Wan or Yoda die. But I care about it enough. I'm like, oh man, that stinks. It doesn't suck, but it stinks. And I had to remember to myself when I'm watching this, we don't see these characters in the original trilogy, so there's no way that any of these people could survive. It just wouldn't make sense from a storytelling standpoint. But again, this isn't a movie. Rogue One is not a movie that you're supposed to care about the characters. You're just supposed to care about the story. And the story is the rebels stealing the plans to the Death Star. And I think Rogue One does a very good job of telling this story. A big complaint that people had about Episode 4 was that the fact you could fire a proton torpedo down this chute and it blows up the Death Star. Rogue One gives an explanation of why the thermal exhaust port exists. The guy that designed the Death Star put it in there purposely in hopes that someone would recognize it as a flaw and exploit it. So Rogue One goes out of its way to fix a plot hole from one of the very few mistakes of the original trilogy. I thought that was cool. I thought Forrest Whitaker's character was cool. It's not his best character that he's ever played in a movie, but it's cool to see Forrest Whitaker in a Star Wars film. And Saw Gerrera is a character, if I could just touch on him really quick. Saw Gerrera is a pre-established character from the Clone Wars animated series. And he's also in Rebels. So you kind of have to go back and watch him in Clone Wars and Rebels to understand where he's at now. But I could totally understand if you're watching this movie and you're watching Forrest Whitaker's unique portrayal of Saw Gerrera and wondering, what? I get that. Go watch Clone Wars, go watch Rebels, learn about Saw Gerrera's backstory, and you'll understand. It'll make a lot more sense to you. Chirrut Imwe, Donnie Yen's character, fantastic. Loved it. How he was like this, non-force sensitive Jedi, essentially. It was cool. Obviously, the best part about Rogue One is Darth Vader. Both Vader scenes that we get, the one where Krennic goes to visit him on Mustafar at his castle. My gosh, did I have goosebumps on me throughout that whole entire scene. Love seeing Vader again, especially the fact that we're back on Mustafar in Vader's castle, which is a direct adaptation from the comics, the Star Wars comics. Oh my gosh, it was so cool to see. And obviously the hallway scene at the end, in my opinion, it's the Vader hallway scene in Rogue One has got to be up there in terms of top 5 best Star Wars scenes ever. It was epic. It was awesome. All right, so moving on, number 2. Just recap real quick. 11, Last Jedi. 10, Rise of Skywalker. 9, Phantom Menace. 8, Attack of the Clones. 7, Solo. 6, Return of the Jedi. 5, The Force Awakens. 4, A New Hope. 3, Rogue One. 2. And this is probably going to be super controversial, these next 2 for some people, but again, this is my subjective personal opinions on my favorite Star Wars movies. Number 2, my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back is, without question, not only one of the best Star Wars movies ever made, but one of the best films ever made in general. You have to think, when George Lucas first made Episode 4, when he first made the original Star Wars, himself, the cast and crew included, the 20th Century Fox, the production studio, they did not think that this movie was going to get off the ground. So they had no intentions, even though George had script ideas and outlines for the rest of his movies for Star Wars, they did not think the original Star Wars movie was going to get off the ground. You know, the only person that really thought they had something going was Mark Hamill. He said in some interviews before that, you know, everybody was down on the film, but Mark's like, no, I think we got something special here. And sure enough, lo and behold, it takes off. It explodes into pop culture fandom. And 20th Century Fox says, okay, let's make another one. So George Lucas writes Empire Strikes Back. The original Star Wars movie is the stereotypical, you know, good Hollywood adventure movie. You have the hero with Luke Skywalker who saves the day at the end of the movie. It's a happy ending, and so forth and so on. Empire Strikes Back takes these characters, splits them up. They go on their own separate journey to build their own character, develop their own story. But at the end, these characters fail and the bad guys win. That's why it's called The Empire Strikes Back. Luke loses a hand. He finds out that his arch nemesis, Darth Vader, the guy who killed his old master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the guy who blew up Leia's home planet of Alderaan, or at least helped blow it up, the guy who, according to Obi-Wan, you know, hunted down and destroyed the majority of the Jedi Order, this evil, malicious villain is his father. That's great storytelling. What a twist. You know, Han Solo gets frozen in carbonite. We don't know if he's dead or alive at the end of the movie. You know, the rebels are on their heels. They're licking their wounds. And it's great storytelling. I don't think anybody expected Empire to go as dark as it does. Not only does it have great storytelling, but it adds to the mythos of Star Wars. It gives us one of the best characters in Star Wars of all time, and that's Master Yoda, the wisest person in the galaxy. You know, Yoda is just this infinite well of knowledge and never fails to give the right nugget of wisdom at the right time. Yoda's character is awesome. We're introduced to him in Empire. You know, we're introduced to the legend and mystery of the Force and going past the mystical side of everything in terms of not only is it just, you know, this energy field that binds everything together, but what does it mean? The light side and the dark side. The whole cave scene with Luke on Dagobah is just great. It's awesome stuff. We see Leia, you know, further her own journey. She becomes more independent, but at the same time, she's relatable. She develops this love story with Han. And so it's not a weakness, but it's more relatable. We're able to identify with her character more because she's got a soft spot. You know, we saw her in the original film. She's this, you know, fearless leader who's not afraid to get her hands dirty, which for a female character at that time was revolutionary. You can have great female lead characters and not shove it down your throat in a woke way. Princess Leia is the prime example of this. And we get to see her come into her own. Billy D. Williams, always great in anything that he does. Charismatic, steals the scene in Empire. We get Boba Fett, in my opinion, one of the best Star Wars characters ever, one of the best villains, one of the most slept-on guys. We get Boba Fett in this movie. You know, it's just a great movie, great storytelling, you know, really, really, really good ending that humiliates our heroes and leaves them scattered and beaten, wondering how are they going to recover from this loss. Empire, great movie. A lot of people have it as number one. In my opinion, it's my number two. Again, this is my personal rankings. It's not what I think is the best Star Wars films ranked top to bottom. It's my own personal rankings. So, with that being said, we got to get to number one. And number one, my all-time favorite Star Wars movie is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I have to explain. I grew up with the prequels. I saw the original trilogy first on VHS. My dad brought them home to me when I was a little kid. It was like 97, I think, when they were re-released on VHS for the first time in the special editions. I saw those first. But I grew up with the prequels. I went to the theaters to see them. As a little kid, I loved them. They hold a very special place in my heart. But when episode 3 came out, I was 10 years old. So I was old enough to understand plot, character development, and all this stuff. The aspects of a film that make the film. And in my opinion, I think Revenge of the Sith has the best storyline in all of Star Wars. I think it's beautifully written. I think the acting is great. It has some flaws, like every movie does. But overall, it's the best of the prequel films. And like I said, in my opinion, it's the best of the whole entire saga. Why do I think this? Because the events of this film directly influence the entire and are directly influenced by the entire saga. This film is the centerpiece of Star Wars. It's telling the story of how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. How does this innocent slave boy who just wants to help people and free people turn into this evil Sith Lord who is just a psychotic killer? How does this happen? Revenge of the Sith tells it. We get hints of Anakin's dark side moments in Attack of the Clones at the Tusken Raider camp. We see him marry Padme at the end of the film, and that relationship, that marriage sets up Anakin's eventual turn to the dark side. And I think it's beautifully well written. The chemistry that Hayden Christensen and Ian McDiarmid had as Anakin and Palpatine in the film is great. The opera scene in Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. So diving into the character of Anakin Skywalker and what made him turn to the dark side was fantastic, and I thought it was beautifully well written, beautifully directed in the film. Aside from that, we get like 5 lightsaber battles in this movie. The best thing about any Star Wars movie is the lightsaber battles. We get 5 of them. The first one is at the very beginning of the movie with Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku. It's the grudge match from Attack of the Clones. We saw Count Dooku completely, wipe the floor with Anakin and Obi-Wan. But in this one, Anakin wipes the floor with Dooku. It's great to see. He kills Dooku. And that kind of really is the tipping point for him turning to the dark side. It's like, okay, he just killed this guy in cold blood. It's really his, on screen, at least in the films. I know it happens in the Clone Wars, but on screen we see Anakin, aside from Attack of the Clones, it's like his first, he's really struggling between the light and the dark here, because he tells Palpatine, I shouldn't, it's not the Jedi way. And Palpatine says, do it. And he does it. So we really get the struggle of Anakin versus Vader in that scene. It was great. Not only do we have Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku, we have Obi-Wan versus General Grievous. General Grievous is the Darth Maul of Revenge of the Sith, a potentially great character that was off way too early. I wish we got to see more of him in the films. We got to see more of him in the Clone Wars, and that's great. But I wish we got to see more of him in the films. The dude has 4 freaking arms. How is Obi-Wan Kenobi supposed to, beat this guy? Great scene, great action. Obi-Wan does what Obi-Wan does and wins the fight. We get Palpatine, the Emperor, fight with a lightsaber. We see the Emperor use Force lightning and everything, and it's really dark and evil in Return of the Jedi. But it's like, what if this guy had a lightsaber? What would that look like? Revenge of the Sith gives it to us. His fight scene against Mace Windu, Samuel L. Jackson, is great. Palpatine takes on 4 Jedi Masters, 4 of the top-ranking Jedi Masters, not only just of the Jedi Order, but the Jedi Council. All these people are Jedi Council members. The Jedi Council are made up of the top, most elite Jedi Masters of the Order. Mace Windu, some people argue that Mace Windu was more powerful in at least a lightsaber combat than Yoda. In the canon, Mace Windu developed his own lightsaber combat form. That's how proficient he was in lightsaber combat. We see Mace Windu fight. Not only just fight, but fight with another person with a lightsaber. He's not fighting droids. He's fighting a Sith. And that's cool to see. We get that lightsaber duel. We get the lightsaber duel between Sidious and Yoda. The ultimate dichotomy of good versus evil. We have the champion of the light side, the Grand Jedi Master Yoda, versus the champion of the dark side, Darth Sidious, the guy who's been manipulating everything behind the scenes, clashing together. It's awesome to see. And then we have the holy grail of lightsaber fights. Anakin versus Obi-Wan. The emotion behind this lightsaber duel is just so great, so incredible. Props to Hayden and Ewan for learning the choreography. They spent months and months of rigorous training to get this down. Great job by them. You could really see it come together in this fight. I mean, we talk about Revenge of the Sith being the focal point for the Star Wars saga. This fight was the focal point for the whole entire saga, and not only just the film, but the whole entire saga. You know, the outcome of this fight would determine everything to come, and it was directly influenced by everything that came before. You know, we see all of the rage and aggression and built-up anger that had been, you know, bubbling in Anakin throughout his whole life finally come out. And he gets overconfident. Obi-Wan gets the high ground and defeats him. And we see him brutally maim Anakin. And this is how he becomes the man in the suit. You know, one of the first questions, at least in my mind, but a lot of other fans' minds when they see Darth Vader for the first time on A New Hope is, how did he get there? How did this guy get in the suit? You see in Empire, Vader take his helmet off, and it's like, oh, that's actually a dude under there. And he's pretty badly injured. How did that happen? When we see Vader take his mask off for Return of the Jedi, it's like, okay, how did you get to this point? We see this happen in Revenge of the Sith. Order 66. Awesome. Great. It's great storytelling. It's a great scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars, and not because we get to see the Jedi get killed, but we get to see the fall of the Republic. We get to see the Empire start to take shape, and I think it's a really emotional scene. It's really great. I mean, Anakin and the younglings. You know, Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we going to do? Awesome. I wish we could have gotten more Order 66, at least from the Jedi Temple. I would have liked to have seen Anakin, you know, destroying Jedi in the temple and the clones destroying Jedi in the temple. I think that would have been cool. But we didn't. But what we got was still pretty cool. So Revenge of the Sith, storytelling, A+. Acting, A+. Action, A+. Effects, A+. It just has it all. You know, 5 lightsaber duels. The score, John Williams' score for Revenge of the Sith, in my opinion, is the best soundtrack in any Star Wars movie ever made. And you could argue that it's John Williams' best work ever. So all this factors into me deciding why Revenge of the Sith is my personal favorite Star Wars movie of all time. So there you have it. Just to break it down again, starting from the top, I have number 1, Revenge of the Sith. Number 2, Empire Strikes Back. Number 3, Rogue One. Number 4, A New Hope. Number 5, Force Awakens. Number 6, Return of the Jedi. Number 7, Solo. Number 8, Attack of the Clones. Number 9, Phantom Menace. Number 10, Rise of Skywalker. And number 11, The Last Jedi. So, about done with this stream here. I'm going to have to go to take care of a few things. But before I go, I want to give them a quick thoughts on a few different other things. We got a new animated series on Disney Plus for Star Wars called The Bad Batch. It was really great. I'm going to break it down either in another live stream or another video coming up soon, later this week, hopefully. But Bad Batch was great. It's the officially unofficial sequel to the Clone Wars, and it's just really awesome. You know, produced. I'm not sure if Dave Filoni directed any episodes in it, but he definitely has a huge creating hand over it, and a lot of the creative decisions made in this series are this is where the fun begins. But yeah, Bad Batch is a really great show. Check it out on Disney Plus. It just premiered on May the 4th on Star Wars Day. Really awesome. First 2 episodes are up. They're fantastic. I think it's really great. If you don't know anything about the Bad Batch, I'll sum it up really quick with this. It's genetically defected clones who have certain mutations that make them valuable. So think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles combined with the Suicide Squad, but in clone trooper form. The leader of the Bad Batch, his name's Hunter. He's literally Rambo. He is the Rambo version of a clone trooper. Not only does he physically look like Rambo, but he has similar skill sets to him. And that should be enough to sell you on why you should watch The Bad Batch right there. Also, really quick, I saw the Marvel content trailer that gave us Marvel's upcoming slate for their films, some of their teasers for Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, Wakanda Forever, Black Panther. super excited about those. I'm going to make a video about that and give my thoughts and opinions about it, kind of break that down, see what I think about it. I was pumped to get our first official look at the Eternals because I'm super excited to see Richard Madden and Kit Harington from Game of Thrones in there, as well as Salma Hayek. Salma Hayek's bae. Anyway, so Marvel content trailer was awesome. I did watch the Venom Carnage trailer, Venom 2. I can't what the title is. Carnage, something. Let There Be Carnage. I saw the first Venom movie in theaters. I thought it was okay. It was fun. I just wish, and I hope that maybe we get some sort of tie-in at the end of this movie that ties it in with the MCU, because in my opinion, Venom and Carnage without Spider-Man is dumb. It's great to, see their stories and everything, but they exist because of Spider-Man. And if you don't have Spider-Man in these movies, you're missing huge opportunities. I haven't seen it yet. Do the clones still age out prematurely? Yes and no. We haven't seen them age out yet, Daytona, but we do see, you do see Order 66 again, which is pretty cool. But you start to see the Empire take over. We see the transition from Republic to Empire. In fact, Palpatine's speech where he's, reforming the Republic into the first galactic empire, we see that speech in this show, and it's great. It's the original Ian McDiarmid audio clip. It's fantastic. Tarkin is in this show, and in the first couple episodes, Tarkin was like, yeah, we're going to have to end the contract with the Kaminoans. No more clones. We're going to have to go to recruited military. So you start to see the seeds planted for what will eventually become stormtroopers. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to see the clones get phased out in this show, whether it's at the end of this season or future seasons. We'll definitely see stormtroopers come into this show at some point. But yeah, so Bad Batch is great. The Marvel content that we got looks fun. Can't wait for that. Venom, like I said, I'm pumped that we're getting Carnage in a film for once. But again, if we don't have Spider-Man, or at least some inkling that Spider-Man's coming in the future, what's the point? But I'm going to break down all that stuff and more in future videos, maybe a future live stream. Today I went really heavily with the Star Wars stuff, but that's because Star Wars is my favorite. I love it. It's what I feel most comfortable talking about, what I'm most versed in. It's my favorite fandom. But I hope you liked this stream. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Comment. Daytona Falls, thanks, buddy, for being interactive in the chat. Chris Goad, thanks for coming into the watching for a little bit. Lopez, I saw you watching there for a second and commented. Thanks for coming in there, Lopez. And to everybody else who watches this video and who watches my other videos, thank you so much. I put on my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page for Fouch Facts too. Just go on Facebook and look up Fouch Facts. I post stuff about content updates of when to expect content, how my process is going for developing videos and things like that. It'll be great to stay up to date with things and to be informed about what's coming. So go check me out on Facebook at Fouch Facts. Go check me out on Twitter at Fouch Facts. I have a Twitter too, Fouch Facts, FouchFacts. So you can stay up to date with all my future planned content releases and just some interesting maybe teases of future videos. But I made a Facebook post the other day about how I'm up to 24 subscribers. I think it might have gone up since then, but I'm up to 24 subscribers to my channel, which is just awesome. This is just going into my third week of just starting the channel, and that's a pleasant surprise. It's a surprise, but a welcome one to be sure. My fan fiction rewrite for episode 7 hit over 1,000 views over the weekend, and that's just incredibly humbling. I can't believe that. I was expecting this thing to maybe get like 100 or 200 views, but the fact that it's over 1,000, I'm just super excited for, and that's a testament to all you guys for watching and giving me some love there. So keep it up, keep sharing, keep watching the content. Hit the thumbs up on my videos, comment on the videos, do what you can to spread the word, be a friend, tell a friend. I appreciate it so much. Not sure when the next live stream is going to be, but I will let you know. Again, follow me on Facebook and Twitter so you can stay up to date on all future content releases. that's going to do it for me today, guys. Can't wait to see you in future videos and future live streams. Thanks for coming out and supporting the channel. See you next time on Fouch Facts. See you guys.